We salute you. You're watching the Get Busy Living podcast, and I'm Dr. Scott from Sixth Sense Acupuncture and the Healthy Habits Club. We've got an awesome guest on today, and that is Rachael Woosley. Give her a round of applause. So thank you very much for coming on today, Rachael. I appreciate your time and looking forward to some gold nuggets of information.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I'll start with the normal question. So tell us, Rachael, what gets you out of bed every morning?
When I first saw that, I was thinking kind of jokingly in my head, I thought, well, I'm kind of in midlife, so nature usually kind of gets me up for various reasons. But philosophically, like what gets me up and gets me out of bed? I think there's two things for me that get me out of bed. One, my kiddos, because I still have children at home. So obviously doing their things. But the main thing is that I know I'm here to do what I'm designed to do. And I like getting up and doing it every day. So like I enjoy what I do. So I want to get up and I want to do those things and see who I help that day and what the outcomes are. So that's what gets me out of bed every day.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you helping the community and helping people do what they want to do and be able to do those things. So yeah, we thank you very much for doing that. So I'll just go to your LinkedIn. I have been trolling you. I've been stalking, as they say. So I see you're on LinkedIn. You're a retired nurse. You're the founder of the Cosmic Clinician, curator of connections, conversations, and collaborations. I like this statement. The person leading the room should not be the most depleted in the room.
Right.
So tell us, how did you get into that? How did you get into what there's a lot of different angles to that. So yeah.
There is. And it's always one of those interesting stories how life evolves, because I started my career as a nurse and spent 21 years working in different modalities. Ended my career after a stint in medical research, doing pharmaceutical research, and left because just a lot of things, let's just put it that way. I couldn't ethically and morally continue to do some of the things that I was being asked to do. And I chose to kind of pivot. I had some kiddos and I got more kind of in the health and wellness space. I'd always been in that area, and I kind of adventured into, doing direct sales. I was working with some clients and doing just different things, but nothing really seemed to fit. And I was doing, some humanitarian aid and all these different things. I was just exploring a lot and trying to figure out where I fit, because I left this career. I had some other things in my life that had pivoted greatly. And so I had left several constructs all at kind of one time. And so I was kind of rebuilding myself, and I was looking at all of the things that I did. And for years, I kind of struggled because everybody, on social media and in business are niche down, get into a niche. And I was but I like all of these things. What do I do with, I like health and nutrition. I like spirituality. I like, sociology. I'm I like all these things. I like to write books. I'm how do I connect all the dots? And so it wasn't until a friend of mine said, well, you're kind of cosmic and you're kind of a clinician all wrapped into one. And that's where the name came from, the Cosmic Clinician. But the more to the point of the leadership part of it was I'd always been in leadership, but nobody ever really targeted the leaders in the room. And most of us do at times, or most of the time lead, because we're so passionate about what we do. We lead a lot of times, but we don't always take care of ourselves in the process. So when I was okay, if I have to pick a niche, I'm going to pick the people that I'm most passionate about. And that was the leaders that are in the room. So I love having conversations. I love talking to, those that are leading the room, facilitating, they could be doctors, they could be facilitating a surgery, those types of things. So to me, it's anybody who's in leadership that just needs somebody to support them, because oftentimes we're supporting so many other people who's there for them. And so that was where I was kind of okay, well, I'll just take that portion of my passion and I'll just turn it into my business. And that's what I did. So that's how it all came together.
And so that's an interesting transition, because you came from the mainstream conventional medicine
Mm-hmm.
into well, basically helping individuals individually, but also from a different vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
And and you worked in research as well, and so you understood the scientific side of how medication is created, and also
Mm-hmm.
how it's administered. And so that the transition. What were you thinking? Were you thinking, well, um, I need to do something different because what I'm seeing is not exactly the right thing for me? Is that what you were seeing? And
Yes and no. So I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. That was what my brain
yeah,
like originally thought. I was like, there has to be alternative ways. And it's not that I think medicine is bad. I think it has its place, but I also think that there are other uh we're not just a physical body, we're an energetic body, we're a spiritual body, we're an intellectual body. And in medicine we, or at least in Western medicine, we didn't treat it that way. We just treated the symptoms, and in my opinion, we put band-aids on bullet wounds, and we never really fixed the problem. We just kind of circulated people back through the system over and over again because it was profitable. And I was like, this isn't, really shouldn't be doing this way. There has to be a better way. And so my research kind of won out in that respect, where I spent several years just kind of working odd jobs and staying home with my kids. But I was doing this research behind the scenes going, wait a second, there's all of these other alternative practices. There's TCM, there's, Vedic, there's all these things that have good qualities to them. Why are we not incorporating them into our lifestyle as well, and treating our whole body as, the multi dimensions that it is, and treating it that way instead of just treating it one dimensionally. And so when I started doing that, it was more like I became aware that there was more to what I had learned,
yeah.
clinically. And so I wanted to step into that. So that's how it was kind of my own self discovery and awakening to there's something better than what I had been a part of.
Yeah, and you talked about energetically, we're different, and especially now that we understand, they're starting to conventional medicine starting to realize that we do work on frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I mean, the ancients knew about this, 2 millennia plus ago. So, and I mean, it's written in many different cultures and dialects as well. Um, so, what pushed you that way? Why did you go into the energy medicine as well?
Well, I was kind of prompted in my own health journey at the time because I had been doing all the traditional Western medicine, checkups, all that thing. And I kind of had my own roadblock physically. And one doctor told me it was just psychosomatic. And that kind of ticked me off in a way, because I
Yeah,
was
it's all in
seeing
your head.
it's
It's all
all
in
in my
your head.
head. And he
Yeah,
was right. Like I learned years later, he was right, because I was actually manifesting a lot of my own symptoms just because of the things that I was doing and my mindset at the time. And so I had a medical intuitive approach me at an event that I was at, that I kind of knew her, but I thought she was a little bit extreme. And so I really never did much with her. And she kind of opened my eyes to the energetic part of what was going on with me. And when she did that, she also clued in through, spirit, that I was a researcher. So she kind of challenged me in a way, in a good way, like, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, go research it yourself. So that's how I got into energetics, was because I realized I was dealing with my own emotional and energetic problems, and I was projecting that out into space, in my space anyways, but it was also manifesting in my own physical symptoms. And so when I started learning about that, I was like, everybody needs to understand this, because we're not taught this, and we're not, or at least some people are kind of taught it, but in various ways. And the way I was learning it, I was like, there's, more to this than just science. There's this cosmic element to us, and we need to merge the two together.
Absolutely. And was going to say, we know now through studying soldiers, especially. I know in the States they're studying Marines, go figure. And they realised, same with Australia, we're studying our military guys that go through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we know that there's certain brain waves, the alpha and your beta, and your delta waves. So the delta and echo waves, they're the ones that, they call it about Zen or it's a feeling of relaxation anyway. And this is the problem. These guys aren't in that ever.
Yeah.
So they tried different methods, but they found the ocean was the best. Surfing, and because it messes with what doesn't mess. It actually increases it doesn't balance. It increases the delta waves and echo waves, and it reduces the alpha and beta. And that's the alpha and beta is your fear. That's your fear, shame,
right.
the five emotion, anger. Whereas the delta and echo are more the neutral, I think is a better way. What do I mean by that? It means that it calms your mind. So your mind doesn't chatter. You don't turn into a monkey all the time.
Right.
The chatter mind, as they say. So we do know that the science does prod it, but they don't advertise it. It's very rare. I had to go out of my way to find that information.
Right.
Like they don't put it on an ad and say, if you go surfing every day, you're going to reduce your ability to your PTSD will reduce.
Right.
Or the symptoms will.
Right.
So see what I'm saying? It's they know about it, they just don't. I don't know. They just don't want to implement it.
Yeah, it's not profitable.
Well, yeah, the ocean's free. It's free to go to the beach.
Yeah, it's free to go to the beach. It costs money to make, to go take a pharmaceutical. So
yeah, that's right. And they don't really have anything. Like you said, they band-aid it. And I see this over and over. And a lot of times they don't know how to, especially post-traumatic stress disorder. They don't. It's very difficult to diagnose from a conventional medicine point of view. Yeah, because it's a questionnaire. There's no blood test. There's no blood test. You can't. Your cortisol levels will probably be high. That's probably the only indicator. But there's no imaging equipment that's look at that. They've definitely got PTSD. See what I'm saying? Is that
right? Well, and a lot of leaders and medical workers have PTSD. They just don't look at it that way. Like you can't unsee some of the things that you see when you work in the field that we've chosen to work in. So, yeah, I totally get that, and and that was my journey. Like I ended up getting 13 Band-Aids on a big old bullet wound that was not working, and I was told that half of them I would remain on the rest of my life. And I just went to the doctor for the first time in 7 years, and I'm still on no medications.
Yeah,
I take supplements and I take plants, and that's it. And my doctor was like, "There's no way you can be 50 years old and not be on medication." I said, "Watch me. I will prove you wrong." And it was the only reason I went was because my insurance required it to keep it.
What state are you in, Rachel? Where are you?
I'm on the western part of the United States in Arizona. So I'm right outside of Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's different here in Australia because the advertising, especially, it's not in our face. You might get a paracetamol ad every now and then, or a flu, or antihistamines. I love antihistamines over here, but that's a bad hit. Over there, you get everything.
You get it everywhere on social media every time. Yeah, it's everywhere, and they literally throw it in your face. And I think it's a programming. As long as we keep telling you, hey, you need this drug, your brain eventually. There's people who are sitting there going, you know what, I might have those symptoms. and they end up manifesting it. I deal with this even with my own family because they all think I've lost my marbles because I left nursing. It's a lucrative job. You'll have a great retirement. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't ethically do this anymore. Like, we're not doing this right.
Yeah. That psychosomatic, well, it's saturation. I won't say the BW word, but that's what it is.
That's what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, but that also creates fear.
Right. Yeah, and we in the West love to create fear of anything.
Absolutely. and that's like you're pushing poop up the hill already.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Well, yeah, you're trying to get away from the fear,
right?
and they're ramming it down your throat. So, I see this a lot, and yes, I worked in emergency. I saw it myself. I actually saw it myself. The things that you just can't unsee. And it's anyone in emergency services. They're all on the same boat. Paramedics as well. They see some horrible things. They find corpses, and sometimes they're decayed extensively. So the same with the police and military. It's not just a military condition. It's anyone in emergency services, but it's also the in society itself as well. Because it can be from anything. It can be from a relationship that you just walked on eggshells, whether it be parents or a partner or
right.
Many things can cause this. In Australia, we're surrounded by water, so it's normally almost drowning.
Yeah.
Because you put the kids in the water and they go out and start swimming, and then they get stuck in a rip. And how am I going to get back?
Right.
And if it's really bad, they have to get mouth to mouth or something like that. Then
right.
It flips them into this fight or flight, and they just don't come out of it.
Right.
For life.
Oh, that's too bad.
So so I get what you're saying, and and the answer is basically Valium and from what I see, and antidepressants. But antidepressants don't slow down the adrenal gland. Unfortunately, they mess with the brain, but not the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland is the problem. It's the
right. Oh, absolutely. That's
so that
and that was for me, like 13 Band-Aids on one very specific bullet wound. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, y'all get it. And I mean, I literally told the doctor, I was like, y'all need to get your stuff together. Like, you don't even know what the last doctor told me. Like, you have, this is not working. I mean, unless I carry around everything and tell you from one doctor to the next, and they still didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, to this day, they still don't know what was truly wrong with me. There was no like specific diagnosis. There was no anything. It was just like, the guy goes, I think it's all in your head. And, years later, I realized he's actually kind of right, in it, the way he went about it may have been wrong, but, it was me manifesting symptoms within my body because I had so much emotions trapped for myself that they had to find a way out. So they physically found a way out of my body, and it wasn't good at the time. And when I started working with that and dealing with that part of my, being as it is multidimensionally, and realized I couldn't just heal the physical parts without healing the other parts, I was never really going to be healed of that. And so until I took care of it all together simultaneously, it wasn't going to work. And so that became kind of my mission, is how do we put all of these pieces together at one time instead of like outsourcing ourselves again to these different, specialties, to, get ourselves fixed. And the one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. And I mean, I even think that in wellness, sometimes we do that. We go here and there and everywhere. And it's like, hey, all of it, you got to bring it back to yourself and, figure out what's really going on at the root. And there are people who can help you do that, but you're the ultimate knower of your own, or you should be the ultimate knower of your own self.
Well, and it cuts back to that. They chop you up. You got your gynecologist, and they they only look at gynae issues, and then you get cardiologists, and they only look at cardiovascular, and your neurologists, they're looking at your neurological system, but they don't talk to each other.
No.
And if they do, well, they usually counteract what each other's doing.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's only when you go to the hospital that they're getting better with the communication. But the hospital, I mean, they've got more time with you. They're more intensive.
right.
They've got more resources. So it is a little bit more comprehensive, I should say, but it's not always.
No.
From what I've seen in the past. But yeah, and that's right. That's what normally happens. You either go down the jump in the pill pool, or the surgery pool, because that's the only two answers you're going to get.
Yeah.
Or you have to go down an alternative route. So tell us about that. What did you do? Did you
well, in my personal process, what I did was, because I saw 9 doctors in 90 days. So that tells you like how, and no, like every time I went, if I wasn't carrying the medical records from the last doctor's visit, they would have never known anything that was going on. But everybody's solution was to give me another pill. And when I got to it, there was a point where I personally was like, I can't keep doing this anymore. If I've got to live like this, I didn't really want to live like that. And it started messing with me actually mentally. And I ended up with my husband and we made the choice that I ended up committing myself, because I knew I was not in a great headspace. The medication was messing with me, and I got kicked out in 24 hours. 1, because they didn't have enough beds. So that tells you something. 2, they said I was the most unsick person in the room. And 3, there was people that were sitting beside me, and it was taking so long for them to talk to somebody. They were talking to me because I looked, what the clinician that was there said, you look the most normal of anybody we have in here. And I was like, this is really messed up. Like, I am not normal. I need help. But they couldn't help me. So they sent me home. With more medications, and then this person that called me every day to check on me for 2 weeks, and that was it. And I was like, what? And I was floored, because here was a system that I had poured every ounce of my career into. And I was like, I'm the patient now, and this is totally messed up. And I'm now grateful for the experience, because I realized how messed up it was, because I was coming from a different lens. So when I stepped out of that, I was like, okay, I got to do something different. And then I had the encounter with the medical intuitive that gave me the insight on the energy part of it. I was like, now how do I get off all of this medication? Because here in my nursing brain, I'm thinking I can't get off of it. But on my other side of my brain, I'm like, I have to get off of it, because I was afraid it was going to end my life. Like, because I was on such a roller coaster of emotions and physically, and I was starting to have more symptoms than I started out with. And I was like, this is frustrating. And I mean, I had been in medical research, doing prescription, doing pharmaceutical research. I knew how drugs worked. And I was like, we're sitting here, like, they're literally drugging me up to be a zombie. That was what I felt like. That's what I felt like. And I was like, okay, I have to find a better way. So my research kicked in, and that's when I discovered plant medicine. And I was like, okay, let's try some things. And I had huge success with cannabis and CBD and things like that. And in 6 months, I took myself off all of my medications slowly. I don't advise people to do that. So hear me, people that are listening, you need to do it with the direction of help. And I did do that. There was one I stayed on. I got on most of them pretty quickly, but there was one I had to stay on for the 6 months, because I had to slowly titrate myself off of it, because I could cause more harm than good. And so I did that. But since then, anytime something comes up, I'm like, is there a food I can eat that can help? I mean, this is my process. I think, is there something in my environment causing this? Is there something emotionally causing this? And then what can I do myself? Like, is there a habit or what I consider rhythms or rituals, like meditation or something like that, can I counter it? So if I'm having, an anxiety thing and I need to get present, I could meditate or I can do breath work. Is there a food that I can eat that can help me bring up my iron levels, if they're off? Like, why do I have to take a pill if I can eat a food? That's the way my brain works now. And so that's the way I look at it. And I approach with my clients is, okay, let's look at you as the whole person. And how can I teach you ways in which you can empower yourself in your own health journey. And you can also empower yourself in your own spiritual journey and navigating all of those things together. So that was my process. I was like, if there's a better solution, I have to find the solutions for myself first before I can help anybody else find their solutions. And my solutions are not somebody else's solutions. So what worked for me may not work for somebody else. And so I just learned modalities and things like that really to like help myself at first. And then people are like, hey, can you help me with this? Or, hey, I've got this going on. Can you help me with that? Or a lot of people will come to me like they've been to the doctor and they're not getting answers. And they're like, can you explain this to me? Because I like explain it to me like I'm a 3-year-old because I don't understand what they're talking. And it's just because most of the time it's not that doctors don't care or clinicians don't care. It's just they talk in languages that most humans don't understand. And so, sometimes people will come to me that way because they're just like, I need somebody who understands both worlds and can help me figure out how to advocate for myself. And I think that's the biggest thing is even in the medical system, you have to know enough that you can advocate for yourself. Doctors are not always right. They're human. They're going to make mistakes. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are, but I mean, I had this conversation with a doctor the other day because I had something that was off and she was like, I don't know why you were sent to me because this is not really my area, but she was like looking at my chart and she could not believe with my age, the stage of life I should be going through. And I'm not going through it because all of the things that I choose to do to not go through the menopause, like this catastrophic, horrible thing. I think it's beautiful and I'm enjoying the ride. Sometimes it sucks, but most of the time it's great because I choose to do things to help enhance it, not make it worse. And she was like, I have never seen anybody with a chart like this. Like, you don't have anything indicating anything. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, she's literally interviewed me in a way, like, what are you doing? Because I would love to have my clients do some of these things because it would, she's like, now they won't like it because it won't make us money, but it's working obviously because your markers are, she's like, I've never seen a 50-year-old with labs like this ever. And I was like, why is that? Why is that not the normal? That was my question to her. I said, why? And she couldn't answer it. And I knew she couldn't, but it was like, why is this not normal? Why is it not normal for us to want to have our patients have good labs? Why do we expect them to have bad labs? Like, why do you expect that?
I remember RFK, he said in 2024, he said in 1964, 6% of the US population had chronic disease. 6%.
6%. Yeah.
Yep. And 1964. The 2024, 60% of the US population have chronic disease.
Yeah.
So that's the norm. So something has changed big time.
Yeah. Well, and I think we self-identify, we wear it as like a badge of honor. I had this discussion with a couple older women a few weeks ago, and they were like, well, yeah, it was literally like a tit for tat who had more symptoms and who had more diagnoses. And I was like, I literally stopped them and I said, you guys are proud of this? And they're like, well, we have, and I was like, no, this is, in my opinion, this is not something that is a badge of honor. This is not something to be proud of. This means that the vessel that you've been given to journey with, you've not taken care of. That's a you problem. That's not a disease problem. That's not a doctor problem. That's not your husband or your wife or your mommy or daddy issues. That's you. You have not taken care of this one body that you got, this temple that you've been honored to give, that enhances the soul part of it, and you're just damaging it. And I said, I don't necessarily want that. I said, I wouldn't want that on my tombstone, let alone people to talk about me that way when I get done with life. Like, oh yeah, grandma had this, or Rachel had this, I don't want that I don't want people to know me for that. I want people to know me that I lived a life well and I took care of myself. I want to be the 80-year-old that's not on medications. That's my goal.
100. Let's make it 100.
Well, yeah, 100's even better. My grandparents made it to, they died in 2016, and they were into their 90s, and it wasn't until they left their farm 10 years before that either one of them were on any type of medication on a regular basis. They may have taken something periodically, pain medication or whatever, but they didn't take anything very consistently. And when they lived off their homestead that they had, and they had lived there for, however long, that's when they started developing chronic symptoms. And I don't know how many medications they were on at the end. And I've asked my dad, well, what was their diagnosis? Well, they didn't really have diagnosis. Just the doctor said with their age, they needed to be on this and they needed to be on that and da-da-da. And I was like, no, they didn't need to be on any of it. They'd lived 80 years without it. If there was no reason, why did they put them on them? Well, because of their age. What?
Yeah.
Like, make that make sense. I'm like, no, Dad, like and my husband and I both have kind of the same similar thought pattern when it comes to that stuff. Neither one of us want to be sick or ill or have a chronic disease. I don't want a chronic disease. If I had one, I would figure out how to fix it.
But that's the way they're taught. I've
seen this before. It's conditioning.
Yeah, the doctors, but as well. That's what I'm saying, is the doctors are taught that as well. How do I know that?
It's profitable. It comes down to profit.
Oh, yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. So this is what I experienced. I have had patients that were type 2 diabetics, and they're on metformin and Janamat and insulin-based medications, mimickers, basically. And basically, what I found is that when they changed a few things in their diet and cleaned up a few things, and their blood sugar levels dropped dramatically, like within a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And
the problem was the doctors, when they went back to the doctors, the numbers were low.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, oh, okay, we'll drop the medication, we'll drop the dosage of the medication, they'd say to them, eat sugar, eat carbohydrates, yeah. So they're conforming. They're conforming. They're not conforming to the diet. They're conforming to the drug.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my grandmother was said to have the one I was speaking about earlier, was said to have borderline diabetes, and she never took medication ever for it. And when I talked with her later on, when I found out like she had this diagnosis, she was like, yeah, I told him, don't ever put me on a pill. I'll figure out how to deal with it with my diet. And she did for her whole entire life, and so like when, I looked at her medical records, when she was in the nursing home at the end, there was no diagnosis of that. Like, they didn't continue it on because she had controlled it herself her entire life. That wasn't something that they felt that whoever, did the chart felt that they needed to continue on after all that time. And I was like, well, there was no need for it. My dad was like, well, she was borderline diabetic. And I was like, no, she wasn't. Yeah, she learned how her body worked, and she ate the foods that she needed to make sure that it functioned to the most optimal level. And that's what she did.
But that comes back to the way she was taught as well.
Yeah.
She wasn't taught to go to the doctor and get a pill to fix the problem.
Right.
Let's try and fix this through diet first, and not jump straight into the pill.
Yeah, I like that pill pool. That's what I felt like when I was, sick many moons ago. I was like, man, I feel like I literally felt like I had a drug cabinet in my
that's what happens.
In my drawer. It was just it was like I had to set a timer on my phone just to make sure I took my medication at the right time. Like, I was taking so many things, it was so complicated to keep track. I was like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. I don't.
And see, that's rare. What you explained for yourself and also for your grandmother, that doesn't happen. 9 out of 10 Australians die horribly.
Yeah. And why?
The States is the same, from what I can gather.
It is.
So basically, 9 out of 10 people die in 3 places. The other 10% die at home in their sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, you either
I want to die having fun. I don't want to die I really don't want to die. Like I told my husband that I was like, please don't send me back to the place that I left, my career. I'm like, please don't send me back there. And I told my kids, I will like haunt you if you I'm like, I will haunt you if you don't take care of me and my old, it's not that I feel like they should, but I want to be well enough that they don't have to. It was like my grandparents. It wasn't until like their last like 8 or 10 months, because my grandma physically was deteriorated so much and my grandpa's mental capacity, and he was a very large man. So it was hard for my mom and dad to, kind of corral him to make sure that he did the things that he needed to do. And, as a family, we all made the decision that was probably the best for them to live out the remaining. We knew they didn't have long, and give them the best care that they could. But they, we were all there when they passed. Well, my family was, I wasn't, I lived so far away from them, I wasn't quite there, but I spent my time with them and they enjoyed life and I enjoyed them, and their passing was a beautiful thing. Like it wasn't horrible. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It
was wonderful. They were happy to go. Like my grandma, when she left, she was like, she called me, like they had her call me the day before and she's like, I'm ready. And I was like, okay, then go, grandma, like go. Like, I don't like it, but go.
Yeah.
And 89 days later, my grandpa followed. And I told my dad, I said, he won't make it even 90 days. I was like, because he's ready to go. And he didn't. He made it on day 89. I got the call that he actually fell asleep in his recliner and didn't wake up. Just peaceful.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's the way it should be. That's the way,
and that's the way I mean, that's what I hope is my journey. When I exit, like I just want to be doing what I enjoy doing, and let it happen naturally.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that out of my four, out of the 6 siblings, my parents and their parents. Out of those 6 relations, there's only one that really died at home. The rest died in hospital.
Yeah.
In 3 different units. So you either end up in emergency ICU, intensive care unit, or palliative care.
Right.
That's the three you end up in. So there's only one that did. Didn't, I should say. There's only one that didn't. The rest died horribly.
Yeah.
And usually it's chronic disease.
You're right.
But some of them died from, diseases we don't hear about anymore, like
right.
TB. They died, before the Second World War. So
right.
Or just after the Second World War. So, tuberculosis, you don't hear that anymore. So my mother's father, I hear that's what he passed away from. And my mother's mother, we're not really sure. We think we might have been a cardiovascular disease. What we can gather. But I mean, I had 10 kids. I mean, that did plead anyone, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, that poor woman. I had 3 and that was enough, because I realized my body was depleted. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I knew I was done having kids. Like my body told me, hey, we're not doing this again. Yeah.
So in Chinese medicine, it's 1 every 5 years. You should have a 5-year gap in between your children.
I have a 9-year gap between my first and second, and 4 years between my second and my third.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, there's not many people do that. But
no, and I wished I would have had my 2 boys a little bit further apart, because I had some excessive bleeding because of doctor negligence with my second one. And I was healthy with my third one, but I wasn't quite as healthy as I wanted to be. Like there was a couple of things I was like, man, if I would have just had like 8 more months, I could have gotten. But he actually was my easiest birth, and I had a midwife, and it was 45 minutes from start to finish, from the first contraction until he showed up. So I'm like, hey, that works, because she told me all the things I needed to do prior, and she was like, let's make this easy as we can be. And I had no tearing, I had nothing. I walked out of there 24 hours later with the baby that was healthy, and have never been back to the hospital since. So,
Yeah,
and I think it's a choice. I think we make a choice to be and live healthy. I think it is a choice.
absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Sometimes you get thrown a spanner.
Yeah.
You're born with something that's not supposed to be. But I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
Down syndrome's one of them.
Right.
But if the family loves you enough, then these people live for long periods,
Mm-hmm.
long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've treated a few people with this condition, and if the family network is loving, then yeah,
Right.
they live for a long time. So,
They do.
and they're healthy as well.
Yeah.
Healthy as well.
Yeah. They're beautiful people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm.
But if, like you said, the problem is that we're taught from an early age that it's good to have a label.
Right.
It's magic to have a label, and you should be proud of that label.
Yeah. I want
Loud
the
and
least
proud.
amount of labels possible. I tell the people,
Yeah,
even they're like, well, what do you call yourself? I'm like, I had like come up with a name because everybody's like, well, what title you go by? I'm just me. Like, why do I have to have a title in front or behind my name? Yeah. I mean, I could have a bunch of them, I've got all the certifications, but I don't want to be labeled, especially with chronic things. I don't want to be labeled with those. That's just my
absolutely.
choice. So.
But 60% of us have it. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, I know. So that's why we got the work we got to do.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So tell us about how you've helped someone. Uh,
Well, I use multiple different modalities. So when people come to me, oftentimes, initially, I like to have a really deep conversation around like because most people come to my work and they think they have one issue when it's really an underlying issue. And so peeling back those layers can take time. Because most of us don't really know ourselves well enough to know what the root is of the cause. And so a lot of what I do is have these conversations oftentimes that nobody wants to have, and kind of push people to think and learn about their bodies and how their minds and souls work. And so I'd use different modalities. So if somebody's coming to me spiritually, I have some modalities where I can help them, look at and it's all frequency based. And so they can look at those things. They can see what their soul's designed for them. They can see how that's playing out in their life. If there's aligned with that, with like the work that they do, the people that they're around, the magic that they're bringing to the world. If it's the physical part of it, I do a lot of like multidimensional healing where we really will dive into that root of what that is. And so for, me, a lot of my clients are women. And so they come in and they're like, oh, I have anxiety. Okay, well, what is really the root cause of that anxiety? And most of the time it's centered around like unworthiness or a fear that they have, or a deep-seated wound that they haven't, they've been picking at. I joke and I'm like, you've been picking at this wound for 30 years. Are you ready to heal it, or do you want to just keep picking at it? And people are like, oh, well, I didn't really think of that causing my anxiety. And once they get to that and they start really like processing how to move that energy outside of the body and learn how to look at a lot of these things are lessons that we're here to learn. And I think for me, like one of my greatest lessons was learning about my body, like being present with my body. I sat and worked with bodies for 20 years, but I didn't know my own, and I wasn't paying attention to all of the things that was going on in my own. And so I had to kind of have this like massive wake up call to say, hey, this is part of your journey. You need to learn and understand this. And so that's the thing that I like most working with my clients, is when they have those aha moments, or like, and I had a client like that the other day. We were going through a really deep healing, and I was like, have you ever thought about this wound being this? And she was like, at first she was a little bristled by it, like it was uncomfortable. And then she was like, a little bit later on in the session, she's like, I think you're exactly right. And so our subsequent times that we worked together was really working on that real wound and not the superficial wounds that she was presenting as, because a lot of it is very cosmetic-y. We come in and we're like, oh, I have this issue because that's what we hear in society, or we hear on television, or we hear on social media. I have this, and I don't look at anxiety as a bad thing. Why do you have anxiety? Like, what's causing that anxiety? And that's the real core of the issue. So let's talk about those things, and let's really work with those things. So my work usually goes very deep with people, so they have to be really willing to dig deep and be open to that. And so if you want a Band-Aid for a bullet wound, I'm probably not your person. That, because I tell my clients that I'm not here to fix you, because your body, your mind, and your soul all know how to fix itself. I'm just here to prompt you to pay attention to what it's saying, and maybe clarify it in a different way by using source, or using a modality, or using your own words, and looking at those and examining them and saying, okay, this is really where we're struggling. And it's not something I can fix. I can just only bring awareness and help you find the tools that you need to work through that. And sometimes my tools are not all the tools that somebody needs. They may need a doctor for some particular thing, or they may need an acupuncturist, or they might need somebody. And I have all of those people in my network that I can send them to. And I don't feel bad when people graduate from working with me, because to me, that's the ultimate goal. Like, if somebody's like, hey, I'm doing good on this. Now, usually they come back because something else will pop up. But, when it comes to energetics and emotions, usually something else will pop up. But for, if people ultimately graduate from my work, I'm that's great. Like, that's my ultimate goal. It's not to keep you in the cycle of victimhood, or, wound picking, as I call it. I want you to heal those things, and then go forth and present your own magic to the world, because the more magic we bring to the world and more healing we bring to the world, the better we all are, like, collectively.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we're not taught either at school, is to listen to your body, to listen to what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's great that you're helping people do that, because it is not part of the curriculum.
No.
So you've done really well. We're up to 47 minutes. So just tell us, who's your ideal client? Who's the one that you want to help the most?
Well, as you said, the leaders in the room that are depleted, that, like, and it could be a mom leading her family. I consider those women even leaders of who they're leading. So it's anybody, for me, it's anybody who is helping others and serving others. It could be, like I said, a mom, it could be a coach, it could be, a CEO of a company, but they're facilitating other people's healing, but they are other people's development or personal development, whatever their arena is. But they're finding themselves needing somebody to sit with them in those times and spaces when things are not working for them, because we all have those moments. Even leaders have those moments. And so many of us, especially in the wellness space and in the spiritual wellness space, we all kind of get lost in, I always say, we kind of get lost in the sauce. We think we're healing everybody else, but then we forget about ourselves. And sometimes we're the worst one in the room. And I call that depletion, when you're struggling to lead from a place of excess. And how I term excess with people is this beautiful analogy that I was given many years ago. A gentleman said it to me. He was like, hey, have you ever thought about the excess is not what's in the cup or even what's spilling over from the cup, but it's what's hitting the saucer and bouncing off to the world around you. That's the excess. And so many of us keep pouring things into the cup, and the cup just keeps getting drier and drier. And we're not filling it up with all the things that will overflow from that. And then the excess is what we give to everybody around us. We keep what's in the container as ours. Yeah. And that's precious. And that's what's filling us up. But so often we, especially moms, we want to dump all of that liquid that's in our cups into our kids, into everything else. And we're dry as we can be, and we're cracked. And you can't give from a dry well. and you
Yep.
you can't do that. And so that's, to me, the ultimate thing is finding. It's not the ultimate thing. I want to have leaders who are leading from so much excess that they're creating these massive, beautiful events and transformations with people, because it's the excess. They're not giving of themselves necessarily. They're giving from the excess of what they have filled themselves up with. And I know we don't teach that. I know we didn't teach that in medicine, because we just kept giving until most of us would fall over from, some type of heart ailment or fatigue or anxiety or PTSD. We all were, taught and trained that you just go until you can't go anymore, or you build a business where it's, you grind and grind and grind, and grinding leads to depletion, in my opinion. You have to
Absolutely.
you have to be in a flow state, and you have to let that excess flow, or there's no way that you can truly give to those that you want to serve. Like, you're giving to them, but you're not giving the best parts of yourself. So,
you sort of already answered this question. So tell us, I'll go to the last one. So what ideas or information would you give to provide lifelong longevity?
I think first off, you have to decide that you want to live a long time and that it's worth living a long time. I think secondly, you have to surround yourself with people like this podcast. Like, you have to fill yourself up with things that are going to provide that excess for you. And then you have to just be willing to go out and serve how you're supposed to serve. I think to me, that's how I live my life and how I want to be remembered for my life. That, that was my contribution to, the collective and making it better.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was some awesome information. Much appreciated. So there you go. If you want to check out Rachel's LinkedIn, she's got a Facebook on there. It's been scrolling across all the time. And there's her website. So there you go, rachelwoosley.com. So they can contact you on that website, Rachel? Yeah,
Yep.
Awesome. So because you haven't bagged me too much, Rachel, I'm going to give you access to my health club. So
Sure.
It's 9 modules. I'd love to hear your feedback.
Absolutely.
I give information about meditation, EFT, nutrition, exercise, roadblocks in the mind, disc profiling who you are, acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, and also the 8 leading chronic diseases which are killing hundreds of thousands of Australians every year.
Yeah.
And the numbers are getting worse. So it'd be good to hear your feedback. That'd be appreciated.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening in on the Get Busy Livin podcast. And you've been watching the wonderful Rachael Woosley, and I'm Dr. Scott from Sixth Sense Acupuncture and the Healthy Habits Club. And you guys have a great day.
Awesome.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody.